I tell you what, it's such a different world out there because you have about 7,000 guys. You have your picket ships and you have submarines and support ships, and they're all there to get really about 50 aircraft in the air. That's their
Yeah.
whole job. The feeding, the whole, that's their job, to get the strike fighters in the air, fighters, and attack at that time. But then we went to, where it's a dual mission. So everything revolves really around flight ops, and for pilots, everything else in your life kind of stops. You get out there in the carrier, you're out for 6 months when you're on a cruise. And you have now in the Navy, we don't have enough officers to have, guys that are just deal with ground personnel and stuff. We have that as well. So we have a secondary job. So you're flying or you're taking care of your troops, and that's it. I mean, you just go, you have a little time here and there, in your stateroom, guys might together and play a little poker, maybe have a drink. I'm just saying. And maybe the person's driving. I mean, Kool-Aid, of course.
Yeah, Kool-Aid, yeah, there we go.
Kool-Aid, yeah, no, nothing else than that. But you're working. I mean, it's a busy time. I mean, it's, the schedule would come out at 2 a.m. in the morning. If you were getting ready for a night trap, because you see, when you first get on the carrier, they got to get the guys tuned up. You know what I'm saying? They're young guys just came out of the rag. Now they're combat ready, but they're just a wingman. Well, you're getting your section lead, which is a 2-ship, your division lead, which is a 4-ship, and they'll be putting you in different sections with that. But they're also getting you, kind of used to operating around the carrier. Because, I mean, it is, your first couple of days, first couple of weeks, really, you don't sleep. Because the sound on the carrier with the catapult shooting off, jets arresting, because the pilots all sleep one deck below the flight deck, right below the flight deck, so they can get up quickly. And the noise is just, you're like, I'll never sleep through this. And after about 2 weeks, all of a sudden you just go to sleep and you're like, you never hear it again. Because you're so damn tired, you're like, yeah, in zombie state. But you get up in the morning, and it was all like I said, if you're getting ready for a night trap, and as you got more senior, the younger guys, they put them on pretty regularly for night traps. Because you get used to it, the pain is not as bad. You get a little more senior, and they go, you had to have one every 7 days. So about day 5, that schedule come out at 2 a.m. in the morning, you're up to get it. You want a damn C. I mean, not a lot of things make me real nervous in life, but I tell you what, landing at night and pitching deck, it gets your attention, Mike. Really gets your attention.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm sure you've watched it, Mark Viscara's, F-14 Tomcat documentary, and they were talking about night traps and stuff like that, and I was like, well, okay, you're the best in the world, we get it now. Like, bloody hell, it sounds crazy.
It just is. I'll tell you what, you'd go on, when you're coming into land at night, and, you're setting up for your approach, because you're stacked out at this place, some radio basically off the carrier. And you're 1,000 feet above the other guy, and you'd figure out where you're at, and you're holding. Well, you have a Charlie time, and you have to be at that Charlie time within plus or minus 10 seconds. Ooh. And so you're figuring out in this jet, and this isn't like a modern jet that has a nice FMS in it telling you when you're going to be there. You're timing it. You time your outbound and your inbound to figure out when you'll be there, and you have to, fix it. So you're flying there, and there's times you're at 500 knots to get that hit point, and then you're at throttles idle, speed breaks out, dump in the nose, trying to get on, and then you start your descent. And at 12 nautical miles, you start an arc, descending around until you hit the final approach course at 3,000 feet, and then you motor in, and then you start your approach. And I tell you what, they try to do all that stuff, and then you'd be up. The guy that was right ahead of you, you'd be up a different frequency. So every other guy was on the same frequency. So you're listening to him with the LSOs, and you'd hear him, call the ball, and all of a sudden, power, wave off, and you're like, the hair in the back of your neck just goes up. You're like, oh, because it's rough down there. My God, they were nice. You go, and you land, finally trap aboard, and your legs would be shaking. I mean, you're just adrenaline and just the whole thing. You're like, man, I want to have this damn jet now. It take you a couple hours to cool off after that. I mean, just because and you get off the carrier, it's a couple of weeks before you finally get just back to normal. You're just like on edge. They always say, somebody's trying to kill you at every time you move, and it seemed that way. I mean,
what do they call it? Is it a controlled crash?
It's a 3-degree glide slope in. We don't flare. You hit that. You do that twice in a day, and the straps will leave bruises on your chest right there.
Oh, really?
When you'd hit. Oh, yeah. It gets your attention. I remember one night I came in, and it was a rough night, and you land, the deck's pitching, and we trap aboard, and they got these 20-year-old kids taxiing around in the carrier. Now you got to realize, Tomcat, for one thing, is a big jet, and we have our wings always swept back as soon as we land. They tell us put the wings back, and you're taxiing, and you come up to the bow of the ship. That's the front portion on the right over there, and if you look at it, there's kind of a little angle going down, a little slope. Well, that's for the armorers that when they're putting on bombs, if something goes wrong, they can push it off and it'll slide off into the ocean. Well, the Tomcat's nose wheel was 12 feet behind me. Oh. So they're taxiing you up there and you're over the water. You're looking back at this yellow shirt and he's like, come forward, and you're like, and the deck's pitching and you're going, the Tomcat seat was a 0-0 seat.
Yeah.
As long as you were on flat deck. But once you went off the edge, it wasn't. You probably wouldn't survive. So, and you're going, you don't know where that wheel is behind you. And he's telling you to come forward, and you're like, finally, you're looking over at him, and out of your periphery, you can see the plate caps going by. So you swear you're going forward. And this deck is pitching down and up, and you're like, there was one point I just shook my head. I'm like, no, I will not. There was no reason to go forward. No reason, except that kid wanted me to. And you're just like, it was days like that. You're just like, you really want to crawl out of that jet and just strangle the guy. You're like, no. So your legs are sick, and you're like, I just want to stop.
So would you chat with the deck handlers, if you went for lunch, or was it separate, pilot, aircrew separate, or?
Yeah, aircrew was pretty separate. And the thing is, as an officer, you went into your shops every day. You talked with your guys. You did it. But there wasn't a lot of socialization like that.
Right.
It was, and, as a naval officer, your job is to take care of these guys. And, and you go kids, but some of them were way older than you. But it was our job to make sure that their life was done right. And they pushed that very heavily as a naval officer, as caring for your troops. Mm-hmm. But on that same stanchion, we didn't break down a lot on the social interaction because, when you're on the carrier especially, when you say, hey, jump on that bomb and stop that fire, it has to be from a position of authority, not like, hey, Jim, you're my friend. I'm not doing, you know what I'm saying? It really had to be, there was some separation. Now, it wasn't that we're better than them. We're just in a different position. You know what I'm saying? In a management type position instead of saying, hey, there's my buddy working on the jet. Now, other officers and stuff, of course we didn't, we talked with them and stuff, but things were so busy. It wasn't like you had a lot of time to kind of, we'll just sit down here and shoot the shit. You were either, grab some food quick. You had to go check on your troops, to launch, or planning a strike. It was just, things just were going so much. There wasn't a lot of social time like that.